Have you ever gotten a bill for something you never agreed to, followed by threats if you don't pay? Yeah, that's how this whole mess started. And trust me, it ended with a full-grown woman hitting the ground the second she saw my badge. I had just moved into my new house, a quiet little cul-de-sac in suburban Virginia. Peaceful, private, no HOA nonsense. That's exactly why I bought it. It was a modest fixer-upper, but it had a solid foundation and a backyard big enough to train in peace. I'm a federal agent. Privacy matters to me more than most. And believe me, I went through every single document before signing. There was no HOA attached to this property. None. So imagine my surprise when, a week after moving in, I find a letter shoved under my front door. No envelope, no postage, just a bright red sheet of paper with bold black letters. Dear homeowner, you are now part of Elm Creek HOA. An initiation fee of $400 is due immediately. Failure to comply will result in escalating penalties. At first, I actually laughed. I thought it was a prank. There wasn't even an official logo or letterhead, just a name scribbled at the bottom, Karen Nichols, HOA president. Still, I'm not the type to assume. I called the city clerk, checked parcel records again, and even verified through the county assessor's office. Nothing. No HOA had ever existed on my lot. So, I crumpled up that fake notice and tossed it. 2 days later, I pull into my driveway and spot someone standing right at the edge of my front lawn. Arms crossed, lips pursed, clipboard in hand. Short haircut, oversized designer sunglasses, and an attitude that screamed authority complex. "You must be Mr. Colton," she said. "I'm Karen Nichols. I oversee this community." I nodded carefully. "Pretty sure this isn't an HOA neighborhood." She clicked her pen like it was a trigger. "We absorbed this block into the Elm Creek HOA last quarter. It's retroactive. You owe $480 now plus a $50 late fee." "Retroactive?" I raised an eyebrow. "That even legal?" Karen smirked. "You can argue all you want, but we've already sent your account to collections." That's when I knew something was way off. No HOA can legally absorb properties without consent, let alone backdate dues. I didn't argue further. I simply asked for documentation. Karen leaned in close. "We don't have to show you anything. You'll pay, or you'll deal with enforcement." She said it with that smugness of someone who thought they ran the world. The irony? She had just threatened a federal agent on federal property without the faintest clue who she was talking to. Karen stormed off like she'd won something. The next morning, I woke up to the sound of a camera shutter. I looked out the window, and there she was again, on my lawn, taking photos of my grass, my trash bins, and even my mailbox. I walked out with my coffee in hand. "Morning," I said flatly. She didn't even look up. "Your lawn is exactly 1.5 inches too long. Elm Creek HOA requires trimming under 3 inches. I took a sip. "There's no Elm Creek HOA on this property." Karen finally looked up. "Then why am I here? Why do I have all this paperwork?" She waved her clipboard like it meant something. I stepped off the porch. "Because you want control. But what you don't have is legal authority. You can't just fabricate an HOA and enforce it on non-member properties." Karen scoffed. "We passed a resolution. We voted to expand our borders." "That's not how it works," I said calmly. "You can't force private homeowners into an HOA without their consent." "Listen," she snapped, her face reddening. "I've dealt with people like you, rule breakers. You're just trying to cause problems." She spun around and marched off, muttering something about fines and violations. I let her go, but I knew this wasn't over. That night, I dug deep. I pulled every public record I could find on the so-called Elm Creek HOA. And sure enough, it was barely even legitimate. Registered only 2 years ago, no board filings, no audit trail, no legal right to expand. It was a paper shell, a scam operation disguised as an HOA to bully homeowners into paying fake dues. The next morning, Karen was back again. This time, she slapped a yellow paper onto my door that read, "Final warning, failure to pay $530 will result in lien placement." That crossed a line. I opened the door slowly. This time, I had something clipped to my belt she hadn't seen before. "Karen," I said evenly, stepping onto the porch, "I'm going to need to see the legal basis for this so-called lien." Her hand went to her hip, ready for another argument, until she saw it. My badge, gleaming in the sunlight. Her eyes widened. "Wait, you're—" "Yes," I said, holding her gaze. "Federal agent. And what you're doing isn't just civil harassment, it's bordering on fraud." Her clipboard slipped from her hand and clattered to the ground. She stumbled back, face pale, breathing fast. Then she dropped. Not a full faint, more like a slow, dramatic collapse, but she definitely hit the grass. I knelt beside her. "You all right?" She blinked rapidly. You're with the government?" I nodded. "Off duty, but yes. And I'm very aware of what you've been doing." Karen sat up, brushing grass off her slacks. "I didn't know. I mean, you thought you could bully your way into people's property and pocket the money," I finished for her. Her phone buzzed in her hand. She turned away and whispered into it, voice trembling. 5 minutes later, an ambulance rolled up. Apparently, she'd called 911, claiming she collapsed from stress due to a hostile neighbor. Cute. The EMTs checked her vitals. One of them asked what happened. Karen pointed at me. "He flashed a badge. I felt threatened." I calmly showed my credentials. "She trespassed. Issued false lien threats. I only showed ID after her third illegal notice." The older EMT muttered under his breath, "Typical Karen drama," before helping her onto the gurney. Karen refused transport, signing a waiver. But before she left, she leaned in close and hissed, "You're going to regret this. You messed with the wrong HOA." I almost laughed. Instead, I went back inside, opened my laptop, and began documenting everything. Screenshots of her fake notices, photos of her trespassing, copies of public property records proving no HOA affiliation, even doorbell camera audio of her threatening enforcement. Then, I did what she never expected. I reported her. Every detail. I compiled all the documents, screenshots, and recordings into one airtight report and sent it directly to the county zoning office, then to the state attorney general's fraud division. But I didn't stop there. I CC'd her entire so-called HOA board, the names of which I'd pulled from a public page on their shady little website. Turned out half of them were just Karen's neighbors, people who didn't even know they were listed as board members. Later that evening, a black SUV rolled into my driveway. My buddy Elijah stepped out, another federal agent, a longtime friend. He was grinning like a man who already knew the story. "Heard you stirred up a hornet's nest," he said. "She tried to hit me with fake HOA fees," I replied, shaking my head. He let out a low whistle. "That's not just petty, that's criminal, especially with forged enforcement notices." "Think we can press this?" I smirked. "You tell me, counselor." "Oh, I'm not here for advice," Elijah said, pulling a file from under his arm. "I'm here to help take her down. Because Karen's game, it's not new. But this time she messed with the wrong guy. And the next morning, she'd learn exactly how wrong." By 7 a.m., Elijah and I were parked 2 blocks from Karen's house. He was sipping gas station coffee, scrolling through her official HOA website on his phone. "This looks like it was built in 2007 by a high schooler," he muttered. "No legal disclaimers, no public filings, just a PayPal donation link and a list of community violations, half of which aren't even real laws." I chuckled. "She's running it like her own dictatorship, charging people as if she's the IRS." We didn't have to wait long. A beige SUV backed out of her driveway. Karen was behind the wheel, oversized sunglasses hiding most of her face, Bluetooth earpiece flashing blue. She looked tense, both hands clamped on the steering wheel. Probably already on another HOA rant call. We followed her to a small strip mall on the edge of town, where a printed sign taped to a glass door read, "Elm Creek HOA Office. Walk-ins welcome." 2 at a time only. Elijah raised an eyebrow. Professional. We waited until she disappeared inside, then followed 2 minutes later. The office was a joke, folding tables for desks, mismatched chairs, and a single plastic bin full of manila folders. Karen sat behind the table, talking on the phone in her usual clipped, self-important tone. When she saw us, her mouth twitched. "Can I help you?" she asked, already standing. I pulled out a printed file. "You billed me for a non-existent HOA, threatened collections, and claimed legal authority you don't have. That's wire fraud and harassment," she scoffed. This is a community-run operation. We're just enforcing standards. We have votes. That's when Elijah stepped forward, flipping his badge open. And I'm with the Office of Inspector General, he said calmly. We've got your report on file now. Do you know it's a state felony to impersonate a regulatory entity? Her posture froze. Wait, you're both federal? Yes, ma'am, Elijah said, his voice even but sharp. And we've traced more than 15 notices sent to homeowners in this district. All of them are illegal. Karen's hand trembled. The pen she was holding slipped from her fingers and hit the floor. 2 was just trying to maintain the neighborhood, she stammered. I crossed my arms. You tried to collect thousands of dollars by pretending to be government-backed. You issued lien threats. You targeted seniors. That's not maintenance, that's predatory fraud. Just then, a knock came at the door. 2 county code enforcement officers stepped in, one carrying a bright orange folder. The taller one nodded toward Elijah and said, Miss Nichols, you are hereby served a cease and desist order. Effective immediately, you are prohibited from conducting any HOA-related activity until further notice. Karen's face went blank. Wait, what? No, I built this! I'm the president! But no one was listening. The office she'd ruled like a kingdom was collapsing right in front of her eyes. And justice? It was only the beginning. By noon, word had spread across the entire neighborhood. Every homeowner on our block received a copy of that cease and desist order. Some found it slipped under their doors. Others were handed copies by cheerful city workers who clearly enjoyed the irony. Karen's empire had fallen, her fake HOA officially exposed as a scam. Still, I wasn't done. I filed a formal statement with the local district attorney's office. Within 48 hours, Karen received a certified letter informing her she was under state investigation for mail fraud, unlawful debt collection, and impersonation of a legal entity. Her reaction? Desperation. She went door to door, trying to convince people it was all a misunderstanding. I was trimming my hedges when she finally showed up in my yard. She looked exhausted, pale, and shaky, clutching a folder stuffed with papers. Mr. Colton, she started, voice trembling. I held up a hand. Karen, stop. You forged bills. You threatened people with fake legal action. You lied to dozens of homeowners and made money doing it. I wasn't making money, she blurted. I was covering costs, the signs, the newsletters, the community picnic. Someone had to manage things. I tilted my head. Nobody asked you to. Then I leaned in, lowering my voice. And you threatened a federal agent on his own property. That part's being reviewed by internal counsel. I suggest you stop knocking on doors. Her knees nearly gave out again. By the end of that week, her fake Elm Creek HOA website was shut down. And her PayPal account, the one where she collected all those dues, was frozen under state order pending investigation. But the best part came 2 weeks. Later at the town hall meeting, the room was packed. Dozens of homeowners filled the rows, murmuring as the zoning board gathered at the front. The head of legal affairs stood and cleared his throat. After review, he announced, no HOA is authorized to govern the properties in the expanded Elm Creek block. All previous notices issued by Miss Karen Nichols are null and void. Homeowners affected will receive formal clearance letters. The room erupted in applause. Karen sat in the back corner, slumped in her chair, eyes fixed on the floor. For someone who built her identity on control, this was a total public collapse. As I was leaving, a man I'd never met stopped me near the door. You're the guy who took her down? He asked. I nodded. Thank you, he said. My mom's on disability. She almost paid that $600 violation last month, I smiled. Not anymore, because some people wield fake titles, clipboards, and imaginary power. But the second truth shows up with a badge. That entire illusion crumbles to dust. If you enjoyed watching this, HOA Karen finally meets her match. Hit that subscribe button right now. Don't forget to like this video and drop a comment below. Have you ever had to deal with a pushy HOA member like this? I read every single one.